So I made this tier list when I was about, I don't know, maybe halfway through the Stormblood content, or the patch content that is, uh, or maybe like 4.2, 4.3, I don't remember exactly where. But I thought I would revisit it now that I finished the entire MSQ, finished all this shit, all this shit in here. Um, yeah, so let's go through. Sail, still S tier. She has not come back. One of few characters in this game who they killed off and weren't like, just kidding, she's fine. So that was cool. Thancred had a pretty cool part in Shadowbringers. I like that he was like there for longer than the other ones, and I like that it sort of had this thing where he was like, because he kind of had this thing where he was like simping for Minfilia a bit much, and then it was kind of like he sort of eventually had this whole plot line of like kind of realizing that he was pushing things onto the new Minfilia, I guess. And I like the way that that worked out. Nero, nothing's really changed. He's still cool. He did like show up right at the end to talk about how he and Sid invent time travel in the future or whatever. But nothing really there. He's still great. Another dude that's still dead. Respect to them for keeping another character dead. Alice, she's pretty good in this one. I mean, I've always thought she was pretty good. I wouldn't say that she's necessarily like moved up, but she continues to be one of the better characters, probably one of the best Scions for sure. Sid's also fine. He hasn't really been around as much lately, but he's not bad. Estinian, I feel like maybe should jump up because I feel like, I mean, he's always been great, but like the Tiamat patch and Shadowbringers, he was really good in there. So I'm at least gonna have him jump Sid at the very least. Kryl has not been around like at all. One thing I really like about Kryl is like it seems like almost all of the Lalafell in this are just like weird characters I can't take seriously at all that just like look like they shit their pants while they're walking around, and for some reason she just like seems like an actual like person, and she's pretty funny. She's got like some good sassy lines. She's kind of like one of the like moms of the Scions. Like she's kind of the like mom friend. So I've always thought she was good. I wish she was around. I think she's in some like side thing in Stormblood I haven't done, and in Shadowbringers she's basically not in almost at all except the very end. Ralbon, I feel like he's just kind of there sometimes, but hasn't really had a moment in a few expansions, but he's still good. Fredola, I feel like she's about the same spot still. She was definitely the best like villain in Stormblood. I mean, I know that the whole like being a villain turning into a good guy thing's like a little bit overdone, but I feel like hers was pretty like they did a pretty good job with it. Yeah, I'm surprised that most of these have not really changed. I do know some of them later on are going to be like, you know, heavily changed. And also, there's a bunch of new characters too, or characters that I didn't remember who were at the time that I made this, like this one. Latoya was there a bit. She kind of just does the same thing over and over again, but I did like the whole joke where Ishtola stole her name, and she was like kind of livid about that. That was pretty good. You know what? I don't think Alphino belongs in B tier. Like, I know I put him at high B. He should at least be A. I'm going to put him here under Kryl. I liked his whole arc where he had this dude as a boyfriend, and then this dude lost his legs. It kind of came out of nowhere, but I was cool with it. I kind of like when, things kind of happen off screen and you aren't really like aware of them. Like a lot of things insist on showing you every single part of a character's arc, whereas sometimes it's cooler to just let things happen. It's like, hey, this happened while you were gone or whatever. Amaric's cool. Another character who didn't really do much here since we were on a different planet. Stola, I like her, but I don't feel like really anything that super cool happened with her this expansion. I did like when she fucking destroyed this guy when he tried to like hit on her. That was cool because I really don't like this guy that much. And that was at the end of Stormblood, but after I had made this. So maybe I'll move her up a little bit. I'll put her above Matoya, I think. Heen or Hein or whatever. I feel like he needs to go down because like I liked him fine, but I didn't think he was anything special. But honestly, he's sort of moved into like not mattering at all territory, like even more so than the other alliance leaders. He just like is literally not even having lines of dialogue in the meetings that have all these characters. So I think I'm gonna knock him down a peg. And I also there was a whole thing where they decided to name their like whole team like the Grand Company of Eorzea or something, and I'm like, that dude's not even from Eorzea and he has nothing to say. So, all right, I'm putting him down to C. Let's see. I'll put him around here for now. I might move him again. Lolorito, I really like because he was the first time where it was like we had this big villain who's like overarching, and also I liked that he started out like seeming like he was actually on your side. He was helping you with the refugee situation, and then nothing's happened with him. So I mean, I don't know. Just the way it played out in Stormblood was like he had all these plans and then they didn't matter at all. So I'll leave him here in the same spot, but I wish they had not underutilized his character so much, or they hadn't made it like it just kept building up, and then it was just like, all right, that storyline's over. Who cares? She hasn't changed either. Merweb kind of had a cool scene with the whole like pirate thing in Shadowbringers. Uh, you know what? I'll put her above these ones because she's pretty cool. This guy, so I made this before he died. I was kind of interested in seeing where he was gonna go. He's a little bit of the like generic psycho villain to an extent. Like he didn't even care that his parents got killed, but the way his arc wrapped up is probably my least favorite part of this entire game so far. And I was looking forward to like actually fighting him, or at least seeing where his story was going to go. And then we'll get to these. She ruined that, so I'm going to move him at least down to the bottom. You know, I'm going to move him all the way to C. Yeah, that's unfortunate because I liked him at first, and it just didn't really go anywhere. I feel like Urianger. Honestly, I think the biggest reason why, and this is true for a lot of the characters on here, but I played with English voice acting, and so many of them were just really annoying. And so I feel like once I switched to Japanese for Shadowbringers, that helped with a lot of characters. I still don't think he's like one of my favorite Scions, but he's probably better than these like, you know, kind of whatever characters. So I'll move him up here. Moonbreeda, another character that I respect that they actually killed off for realsies. And I think she was in 1.0, which obviously I don't know anything about. But I always think it's kind of cool when there's characters from that in the actual story. So yeah, I'm not going to move her. Ilberd. Maybe Ilberd deserves a low B. Because I thought he was actually like one of the more interesting villains, since it's like you can kind of see where his motivations are, and he's like singularly focused on this one thing, but also like pretty evil. I'm gonna move him up. Obviously, nothing actually changed with him. Like he wasn't around, but I think I just changed my mind on that a little bit. All right, so this is yeah. So Gesetsu, I really liked him at first. Like when he first showed up on the boat, he was cool. He was just kind of like the old boomer dude that is like reasonably cool, but like has some weird ideas. Like when they we're talking about like flooding the castle to stop Yatsuyu, he's like freaking out about that. Like he literally just like can't stop talking about it. So it's like that's why I kind of put him in C originally, was because it was kind of annoying. But I think it's basically like prior to that point he would be like a B, and then after his whole arc with Yatsuyu, he's like either low C or D. Because honestly, I'm gonna put him in low C because I'm gonna move him down. Like, I don't know. I like him better than this guy at least. I don't know. The thing is, like, his whole arc with Yatsuyu is just like it's one of those things where they kill off characters and then immediately are like, no, they're not dead. And also, it would have been a perfectly serviceable ending for him, like going out in a like respectable way, trying to protect the whole group, taking her out with him, and then instead he like saves her, which whatever, and I'll get to her in a minute. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I don't know. He definitely went down after the patch content, but I don't. If it was just the patch content, he would be in a D for sure. But given that he started out as a strong character, I'm going to keep him in low C. Nothing changed with Hilda. This guy, what is this? This is the loser one. Yeah, I thought his arc was a little bit forced, but it was still fine. I wish they had his like servant guy, Honoroy or whatever, because that guy was alright. He would be probably B tier. He was always making good coy comments that were pretty funny. Are involved. I feel like after Shadowbringers, he goes up a little bit. I still don't feel like he's like super important, so I don't know if, or like super impactful really. But I like his whole like surprise boyfriend thing with Alfino. I thought that was an interesting development for both the characters. So you know what? I'll put him up high C, but I'm not going to quite put him up to B. I don't think. Yugiri, I don't know. You know, she started out as like one of the main Far East characters, and then I feel like not that much happened with her. Like she does some cool stuff in fights, and that's another thing that was cool about Stormblood and especially Shadowbringers, how they sort of make your teammates seem more impactful than in the past, where they're like in a lot of the duties helping you out, or there's even the trust system later, which isn't related to her, obviously. Um, but yeah, I like that they start like putting them into dungeons and normal duties. So I don't think she changes though, because really I just feel like her character didn't really go that much of anywhere other than being an introduction to like the Stormblood Far East part of the story, basically. Nothing happened with this guy. I like the more annoying brother a little bit more, just because like I don't feel like there was that much about this character. I feel like I don't really remember her. She was just like one of the people on the fucking Proud Lands area, whatever that's called. I That's why she's in C, I guess. She just really had no impact on me. This guy, he's like starts out kind of annoying, but he can be kind of funny. Nothing's really changed with him. Lise, I would say I would put Yida like really low at the start of the game, like in A Realm Reborn, but she winds up being like a little bit better. But I kind of like that they wrote her off of the Scions. It feels like they're progressively writing off all of the Scions I don't like, so that's cool. I like that she's not really around, but she's not terrible. She's just fine. Nothing changed with this guy, obviously. I liked that he was a villain that wasn't like, oh, I was actually possessed, or oh, I was my motivations were like actually just straight up what they were. Like I'm trying to do the best thing for this country, even if that country's like pretty evil. So I like that he had like that noble sacrifice to like try and protect everyone. It made it seem like this was like a real person instead of just being like generic evil empire like so many characters are. Like he kind of reminded me of like a Final Fantasy 12 empire character in a way. So I think, you know what, I'll put him at least above some of these. Let's uh let's put him around here. Kanisana has kind of grown on me. I thought she was like the least interesting alliance leader, and I still think that's the case. But I don't know. I don't even really have an explanation for it, but just as she's had a little bit more screen time, I've liked her a little better. So I'll do a similar move for her. So this guy kind of stopped showing up, surprisingly, because there was a while where he was just like popping out and being like, and then, you know, that might partially be because she kind of replaced him in that similar role. Um, but yeah, he's fine. I don't think anything changes here. This is another character that was just like one of those Stormblood characters where I'm like, I mean, whatever. Did this guy die? I feel like this guy died and I completely forgot about it. Like something happened and this guy died. I might just be completely making that up. I don't know. I don't really care about this guy one way or the other. He was just kind of generic quest giver. So this guy, I kind of liked his thing at the end of, I guess it was the end of Stormblood, the final patch before Shadowbringers, where he's like saying all this like crazy Nazi shit, and it's kind of cool that he's like built up as this villain, and then they just fucking ruin that by having this guy kill him off camera. Well, not off camera, but like, well, maybe they do kill him off camera technically. Anyway, I was really looking forward to like having him be a part of the story since they had like been showing him off camera so much. Um, so he himself, I would put maybe a little bit higher in C. The one thing is, the one thing I can't really look past is like he's aware that the empire was founded by an Ascian, and he's aware that he's basically just doing that Ascian's bidding, but for some reason he thinks like, oh, I'm gonna totally fucking own Emmett Selk by doing exactly what he wants all the time. So I don't know. Maybe he's fine here actually. This guy obviously has not appeared again because this is a picture of him getting cleaved in half, which was his best moment. This guy has appeared substantially more. He was very much a filler character. Still have kind of mixed feelings about him. I like that he kind of has this like simp thing going on, similar to what Harshafan had going on, but maybe to like a slightly less exaggerated degree. But I also feel like it was pretty shitty of him to just like summon everyone and then like not even worrying about what they were doing into another world where he can't bring them back, and then like also just randomly not tell them who he was. You know, there's so many characters in this game that wear masks or hoods or whatever, and then they reveal their identity, and it's like, yes, obviously that's who you are, but I don't know why you were doing this in the first place. Um, but yeah, I'll move him up to a B because he at least gets a lot more screen time and has some good moments. And obviously, the Final Fantasy III music that plays whenever he's around is cool. And I also kind of like him now that he's just a normal Scion. He's not doing all the crazy overpowered crystal bullshit. I will say the whole time travel plot with him was like a bit much, but it was fine. Thorden, he was just kind of okay filler Pope villain. This guy, um, you know what? I'm gonna actually give him some points for his whole like coming on the Y'shtola thing, because like I thought it was like, you know, most of his character had just been him being an asshole, which is why he was low C. But here was like, you know, not only did he get his comeuppance, but also like he at least sort of behaved a little differently, so you got to see another facet of him. So I'll move him up a few. I still like Teleji better as like being an annoying shitter villain that I hate. So I don't want to put him higher than that, but he's at least like slightly improved. You know what? I feel bad putting him over Gesetsu though. All right, all right. He's only gonna jump Thorden. This is Nidhogg. Nothing's really happened there. I do kind of like that the like Estinian connection. By the way, Estinian Wormblood, and then he literally has Wormblood later. It's a little on the nose. Anyway, yeah, I like that he like can sort of feel Nidhogg's feelings on things once they've combined. So it's like maybe that gives him a slight boost, but I'm probably not going to change him. This character just doesn't matter. I feel like if I played 1.0, maybe she would. I'm going to bump her to a C just because I feel like maybe some of the, like, well, I don't know. I did say or are just pointless, and she is completely pointless. Okay, it just feels bad because it's not like she's, like, terrible, right? She just is very pointless. These ones, I'm going to move both of them as a pair. I think part of it was these were ones that were definitely really bad because of the voice acting. Once I switched to Japanese, this guy was much less annoying because he was really annoying. So yeah, I'll put them in low C together. And he's slightly above him because he's slightly less annoying. Pippin, I still don't know what the fuck the deal is with this guy. Like, he just like showed up and was like, I'm Raoban's son. I don't matter in any way. So yeah, he hasn't changed. Hraesvelgr, I just thought this fucking dragon was an asshole, like, all the time. He has cool moments, obviously, like when he does help you and the dungeon with him, so I'll at least put him above fucking these two guys, I guess. But I just thought he was such a dick all the time. You know what? Low C, low C. He's allowed to be a dick. He's a old dragon. Okay, I genuinely can't tell you which one of these is which. We're gonna say this is La Habrea, and he's not gonna move because he sucked. He was pointless. And this is Elidibus. So Elidibus's whole arc was a bit, I don't know. It felt like he was terrible for all of the entire game until Shadowbringers, where because Emmett Selk, which I'll get to later, who was great, managed to kind of give Ascians an actual like reason for existing and like a plot, he by extension is bumped up. But I also thought it was really weird how, you know, he was definitely like the main Ascian for sure. And then they just kind of like in one of the patches were like, all right, fuck this. He's gonna possess Ardbert's fucking corpse and then just get killed by you very easily. I thought that was a little bit like, oh, I thought for sure this guy would have been an Endwalker, like one of the main villains. So I thought that was weird, but I will at least knock him up to, let's put him above this guy. Yeah, I mean, she died. She was a pointless villain. The only thing that's cool about her is that she's related to this person. Yeah. And Philia, I'll move her up a little bit just because, like, it was cool that she, kind of, like, relinquished being this character and, like, let her be herself. I kind of like that. And if this was counting the, like, version of her that was Minfilia, then it would be higher, because I thought that was a good character. But Minfilia herself just was really bad in Realm Reborn, and then afterwards was not really even the same character anymore. Okay, so let me get this off right off the fucking bat. This is the worst character in the game by far. Well, it might be in contention with this one. But at first I thought like, okay, she's just extremely cruel and horrible. You know, that's fine. Villains can be like that. It's somewhat interesting that she's doing this to her former countrymen. And I kind of liked leading up to the part where you fight this guy, where she like kind of dies from the place collapsing. I thought that was fine. Then when she comes back with Gesetsu, and by the way, one of the things that was kind of cool is you sort of saw very small glimpses into her past to see like, oh, bad shit happened to her, so she became a genocidal maniac, which is like, okay, I mean, it's not a good motivation, but at least it's like some semblance of depth to the character. But yeah, then her whole, that patch where Gesetsu comes back with her, he starts calling her a cutesy name, Suyu. She becomes like really quiet woman that's like just trying to have a nice time, and it's like it just is so ridiculously heavy-handed and forced that, and it's like an amnesia plot line, you know, again. I just could not stand it. That whole, I probably should have skipped those scenes because they were pissing me off. And they just try to make it like, oh, don't you feel really sorry for this lady who like mowed down all of these families and had them kill each other and is horrible, because if she has amnesia, then that's not who she really is. And I'm like, no, I really don't. And then when she finally does get her memories back, she's like, okay, well, I'm going straight back to my brother and doing evil shit. And it's just like, okay, so this was just literally nothing happened. And then the fight with her when she becomes like a primal or whatever, it's an okay fight, but it also pisses me off if you're playing as Black Mage, because you'll like be like, all right, I got my Enochian set up, I'm ready to go, and then like 3 times it'll stun you for like 20 seconds in the fight to show some like roleplay stuff, and it's like, great, my rotation is fucked once again. But the fight's fine, the whole moon thing's cool. But yeah, and then you kill her, and it's like showing her being like, oh, Gesetsu set me free and all this. It's like, no, you don't have redemption. You're evil. You got your memories back, and you continued being evil. And like, I don't know, it just felt so like emotionally manipulative and forced of a plot line that I couldn't believe that people like this part. I'm sure some people will like it and be upset that I'm saying this, but it did not work on me even a little bit. And then worse than that, the fact that she just fucking kills, where is he, Asahi, and I was like, okay, I'm somewhat interested in where this character's going to go, and then no longer. That is over. So yeah, that's my rant on her. Now for my rant on this guy. I already thought this guy was terrible. He's just a bad villain. His motivations are extremely generic. There's nothing interesting about him at all. And that's actually one thing I liked about Varys too, was Varys, like, when he learned that Xenos died, he was just kind of like, alright, good, that guy was fucking terrible, I hated him. So that was kind of cool. And then the thing that really pissed me off is when he says, you kill him, and he says something like, oh, you were my best friend, or whatever. It's like, Jesus Christ. Like, but yeah, then they bring back his corpse as an Ascian, which whatever. I would prefer not to just have that happen all the time. But it's not a big deal because it's not really Xenos that's back, right? So at least Xenos is dead, so he can stay in D tier because he's not coming back. And they brought him back as a fucking zombie with no explanation. I'm sure there'll be an explanation later. I don't care what it is. I don't want him back. This guy is terrible. I'm putting him below this guy. This guy's got a band-aid and is a fucking British clown guy. Like, he's a little stooge, and the other villains of the same thing are lower than him. So yeah. Uh, yeah, I'm Endwalker. There are things about it that I'm really looking forward to that I think look really cool. The villains are not part of that, and especially not this guy. Yeah, Papalimo. Um, this is a character that just had nothing about him at all. His whole thing seemed to be that he had the tie to Yida, which was like kind of not a big deal. And then I like that his sacrifice, because I thought for sure, no chance he's actually dead. He died off screen. I still think 90% chance he's going to come back at some point. But for now, he's dead for good. So for that, I'll at least put him above La Habrea, which is who I'm pretending this is, whether or not it's actually him. It could easily be that other Asian whose name I don't remember because he didn't matter. They both sucked. It's fine. Tataru, she's definitely better in Japanese. Her voice acting is a lot less annoying. But I don't know. You know what? I'll put her as higher than this character at least. I'll put her higher than Minfilia even. I don't really like her. I think she's annoying, but she at least kind of serves some purposes as like the person who gets stuff done that's not related to like politics or fighting, I guess. She's like the logistical person. She serves at least somewhat of a purpose. You know, I'll put her in low C even because I don't like completely hate her, and I think part of it is just the fact that I find Lalafell to be like more annoying versions of gnomes, which is a pretty impressive feat. Was this the guy that pretended to be like an impressive fighter who like fought Leviathan or something in Realm Reborn? Okay, you know what? He gets a little higher. If that's even who that is. I don't even remember. This is just a liar guy, I think. He gets low C. I changed my mind on him. Okay, this is one where he doesn't belong in what the fuck tier. The reason why he was there is because the whole arc with the Warriors of Darkness in, I guess that was Heavensward, was just really out of left field and not good, and it had the whole like yet another Urianger pseudo betrayal thing for no reason. And this guy just kept showing up being a dick. But then in Shadowbringers, he was actually quite good. You got to see like, well, for one, part of the reason the Warriors of Darkness thing didn't work is because you couldn't really see that as like an actual world. It was just like, okay, yeah, whatever, they came from the Dark World, who cares? Very similar to in Final Fantasy III when the Warriors of Darkness just show up out of nowhere. And it's like, whatever, these are just some pointless guys, right? That's how I felt about them. And then I also felt like them trying to fuck you up because Urianger is like forcing this whole thing with Minfilia to happen is just, I don't know, the whole plot line just didn't work for me at all, and I didn't like him because he just kept being an asshole. But yeah, in Shadowbringers he's pretty good. He follows you around as a ghost. He's a lot more like genuine, and you know, you get to see his like sort of like with the side quests, you get to see his connection to his whole group, and at least to some extent. And you also get to see his connection to his old Chocobo, and the Chocobo learns to talk, and is like, oh, he was so important to me and all this. So I think this guy actually winds up being pretty cool. I definitely don't like that they reanimated his corpse just for you to fight Elidibus one more time. But I'm going to put him... this is kind of a tough one. I feel like he deserves low B. Yeah, I'm going to put him in the lowest B right now. He's not bad. It's just like, you know what? I'll put him in mid B even. I think he's actually pretty good. She's probably better now that I changed the voice acting. I literally was skipping half of her lines in Realm Reborn. It was so annoying. I couldn't stand her. I definitely hate the plot line where she wasn't actually killed. I think that's really stupid. I really like that plot line overall just because it's the first time in Realm Reborn where like something big actually happens, but the way that the fallout from it happens is really dumb. This guy just looks, sounds, and is ridiculous, which I guess is part of his point, but you know, maybe if the other villains were better, would serve as a better stooge. I kind of like that he has the like Frankenstein monster thing going on at the end. That's kind of like a fun way to fight him. But yeah, he's still pretty bad. The whole Stormblood villains, other than Ferdola, were all really, really awful. And one more thing about Xenos, they give him the Echo, which I think's cool. I think the whole like Magitech Final Fantasy VI type thing where they're like giving people these powers is neat. And I like that they did that with Ferdola. But with him, he was already kicking your ass for no reason. Like, it's never explained why he was able to do that, why he was so unnaturally powerful. And at first I thought they were saying, oh, he had already done this, but it's like, no, he was just now getting it done. So I like that plot, but I don't understand why he was so powerful to start. So yeah, that's why he is this low. It's possible he'll become less bad in Walker, but I doubt it. So now I get to do the new characters or the characters I skipped over. Yeah, so this one, I guess they sort of have both of them in the picture. I'm just going to treat it as the higher of the two, which is her. This guy's all right, you know. I don't necessarily find it believable that he was going to become the mayor because he was kind of a fucker, which is fine, you know, it's part of his character. And I like that these people were like these aristocrats that were like really blissfully unaware and just being terrible to poor people, really, but were still fun to have around. And in particular, I really liked her. I liked her relationship with Alphino. And I also liked the first time Alphino does the picture and it looks just like her and it's really good. And the husband's like, oh, that looks like shit. It looks like her. It has to look better. And she's like, oh no, it looks just like me. He saw my true beauty and all that. So I actually really like these characters, especially her. I'm going to put them in like mid-high B, but below the good half of the Scions. What's her name? Like, I don't know. It's some Numo name. I like that she can turn into like an eldritch demon thing and float around. I like her dungeon. It's kind of like Karazhan. And I don't know. It's kind of weird that her whole plot is like, I'm testing you, and then I'm just gonna like be really helpful afterwards. It feels like maybe she'd be a little bit more reluctant to help, and she was just kind of like constantly on about helping afterwards. Like she was always in the Crystal Tower doing her best to like get your whole team back to Eorzea. But she's pretty good. I'll put her in high C, maybe right here. And you know, looking at this, like a lot of it is kind of, you know, it's like any of these, like on any given day, I could probably move these within a tier to somewhere else. But that's where I'm putting her for now. All right, this guy's great. Question is, exactly how great is he? So let me start with the argument for S. The argument is he's the first, like, really, really good villain in this entire game. And the other argument for S is that he manages to make all of the other Ascians better by his existence, because the entirety of A Realm Reborn and anything that had Ascians in it, it was just like, yeah, they're just like Organization 13 from Kingdom Hearts or some shit. They're just like rogue people with no real motivations that make any sense. And in some way, his motivation is something where it's like, you could never understand, like, what does it even mean to be 1/12 of a person, right? Like, it doesn't make sense. But it kind of like, it makes you think of like, he literally sees all of humanity as like basically ants. Like they're literally not as good as him. They're not what he is, and they're not what humanity used to be. And so for that reason, it actually makes all the Ascians cooler. It makes him cooler. It makes the entire plot cooler. So he's just like does such a good job that that's the argument for S. And you know what? I've talked myself into it. He's just S. He's really good. And another thing that's really cool about him is, I can think of a lot of things that are cool about him. One, I like the fact that he just like follows your party around and is like, I mean, I'm not gonna stop you. Like, my plans are gonna work. Like, it literally doesn't matter what you do. I'm just hanging out. And like just kind of getting to see his perspective more, instead of it being like, oh, I popped in because you just killed a primal and I have to brood, oh, they killed the primal, but not the next one. This time he's like actually just there taking an active part all the time. And I think that's cool. I also like the fact that he like literally helps you out sometimes because it sort of makes you wonder, like, because clearly there's some amount of him being conflicted, and like he's clearly an actual person because he literally recreated his old giant town, his whole city, and he created all these ghosts, and even one of the ghosts, like, is programmed to be against him because he like somewhat is conflicted. So I actually think he's a really interesting, cool character. To some degree, I guess this would be the argument for slightly lower. I think it kind of takes away some of the agency of the Empire, being that it was like literally founded by an Ascian and not like for the, the whole like story of the founding of the Empire is like kind of fake, and it's not really about stopping primals the way he acts like it is. So for that reason, it kind of makes the Empire weaker. So that's the one argument I could see, but I'm still going to keep him an S. He's really, really great. He's definitely one of the reasons why Shadowbringers is like the best part of the game. Gaius. So I guess I did know this guy. I just didn't realize that that's who it was. I'm never a fan of them bringing back dead characters all the time, but this one I don't necessarily mind that much because it had been so long, and it's also just like, I don't know. I don't feel like his death was like that definitive, and he's doing cool stuff. Like I like that. I don't know. I kind of like the whole like he's different than Nero because Nero's not doing it like to help people. Nero's doing it just because his one interest is technology or whatever, and he just wants to have a good time doing that stuff, and that's part of what makes him an interesting character. This guy, he's actually had a change of heart. He's realized like, yeah, the Empire kind of sucks ass, and I'm done with all that conquest shit, and I'm gonna try and sabotage the Empire from doing evil shit. So I like his whole turnaround. I'm gonna actually put him in A. I also think his voice in A Realm Reborn was really cool. Like, he wasn't a great villain in A Realm Reborn, but he was at least like kind of cool, right? So for that reason, I think I'll put him here because I think he is always good. Even in A Realm Reborn, I think he was one of the better characters, despite not. I wouldn't have put him in A tier for A Realm Reborn, but I think he's a cool character. Okay, so this character, um, well, she is who made me switch to Japanese voice acting, because as soon as I heard her voice, I was like, I can't do this anymore. I can't take this shit. Uh, so I switched it over. She became a lot better at that point. I like her transformation to Titania. I thought that was cool. I like that the whole like fairy faction is like they're not really on your side. They're like kind of on your side, but they're kind of just doing their own thing. So I think she's pretty good. I'm actually gonna put her in a low B, I think. This guy, I don't know what this guy's deal is. He's just weird, right? Like, I think a lot of people probably really like this guy because he has some weird lines, and I know that in English his voice was very out there. In Japanese, I don't feel like he was as noticeable of a character. I'm just gonna put him in C. I thought he was kind of whatever. I'm gonna put him somewhere in the middle. Let's put him below this guy. Let's move her down too, because I like this guy better than her. I don't really have much to say about this guy. Louis Swa, I did finally do the Coils of Bahamut. I soloed all of that. So I got to see his whole story. That was cool. I don't know that. I mean, I like that it's kind of like he's this legendary character in the lore. I think it's cool that they have one of those. And I think it's even cooler that he was like an actual character in 1.0. So I'm sure for like longtime players, that's pretty sweet. I also like that they haven't like really brought him back that much. And I don't know, he's just kind of like the character where it's like everyone reveres him, so you can like always invoke him like as doing like you're like, oh, we're with his grandkids, so we're doing the right thing. And then I also think it's cool that they brought the twins' dad into the story, and he's kind of like being a piece of shit, and he doesn't even really like Louis Suave, so I think that's cool. So I'm gonna put this guy. Let's put him in a B. I think he's a solid B. Let's put him here. I think he's probably better than most of these guys. This guy's cool. I really like characters in Final Fantasy games when there are people in the Empire that aren't just like trash humans. Like this guy kind of reminds me of like Gastalian Empire Cid from 6 or half of the characters from 12. The fact that he's on this faction where it's like we're trying to not do as much evil shit all the time, but still be like, kind of evil. I mean, he seems like really nice. Like he kind of defected at the end, I guess. But yeah, I like this guy. Definitely a solid B as well. I can put him above Louis Soir. I'm gonna put him right below him, but he's really good. Ranjit, he's definitely a C. Like, there's nothing great or horrible about this guy. It kind of feels like he was like they drew the concept art for him for Stormblood, and they were like didn't find a place for him. They're like, fuck it, just throw him in the next one. He just doesn't really mesh that well. I was actually really surprised that what is it, Yulmore? I don't know how you pronounce it, but I was kind of surprised that wound up being like the main villain faction for most of the expansion. I thought they were kind of be like a just a zone wide thing. Uh, some of the fights with him are kind of cool. He kind of serves as the like Xenos for Shadowbringers for the solo duties. He's not bad, not great. I'm gonna put him below Varys for sure. I guess I'll put him below Gesetsu and Elidibus. I think this is fair. He's just fine. I can see people really not liking him. Well, one thing I will say is I like that it doesn't go that into depth with him, but he like occasionally will mention like very little tidbits of his motivations, which I think's a little bit interesting. And I like that when he dies, he's like mourning his like lost family or whatever. This character's great. It's like she's like if you made Minfilia not horrible, and she's definitely A at least. I don't think she's S. She can't be S, but she's A. She's probably below Alphino, above Raubon. I really like that. Like even when she was Minfilia, she was cool, but she became way better afterwards. And I like that she always has this. Well, I don't know if I like this, but I think it's funny that she always has this whole thing of like, oh, I'm not living up to Minfilia, and I'm like, you are literally like in dungeons fighting. You are helping out. You are not just standing there telling me to come back for no reason, even though you can talk to me over the phone. You're like an actual character. So don't worry, you have exceeded Minfilia by a great amount. Easy, easy A. So this character, I guess I just forgot, but I actually think her whole like tribe was kind of cool. So I'm gonna put them in B. Uh, well, let's see. Where did I put the other one? I put her here. So she's way better than her, right? Her whole thing where they like assign people a name from a past life that they believe they have. I think that's a whole cool little gimmick for their tribe. And she does some cool stuff in the fights too. She makes those big like I don't even know what you call them, like the big wall things. I like that she kind of has a motif like that with her attacks. So I think she's cool. Valkyrie. I don't get why they changed this guy's name to Lord Valkyrie in English. It became very apparent when I was in Japanese and they kept calling him Don Valkyrie, which makes a lot of sense because he clearly has like the Don Corneo hair. And it's kind of a similar vibe where he's this like giant, like, I don't know, like, he's not necessarily perverted like Don Corneo was, but he's like, he's got kind of got that same vibe where he has these like concubine-like beings around him. And it's clearly a reference to that, and I think that's cool. I also like his transformation a lot. I think that's cool. Somebody in the group said, "Oh no, he's hot," you know, like from SpongeBob when he transformed. That was pretty funny. Um, yeah, he's a fine villain. I like that he was basically like a creation the whole time, and you know, just a pawn. Like he was obviously a pawn the whole time, but I think he's pretty good. I'm gonna put him where he's definitely somewhere in B, but where in B? I like him better than Lolorito. This seems fair. Okay, this guy, I want to put him really low, but I feel like I need to just give him more of a chance because, I mean, the argument is like Emmett Selk in the like before Shadowbringer stuff wasn't the greatest. He was fine. I kind of always thought he was at least interesting because he seemed like a different type of Ascian, but this guy just kind of seems like Emmett Selk, but without any actual character motivation. But they've brought up multiple times like maybe that he actually has motivations that aren't just I literally want to kill everyone and myself, which is really very generic and not interesting. So we'll see where he goes. For now, I'm gonna put him. I mean, I do think he makes every scene that he's in worse so far, but he's not pointless. But I'm gonna put him here uh, for that reason. I think he has the potential to be way higher depending on how Endwalker goes. So I'm not saying this is like he's definitely terrible, but so far he's just being like a parody of Emmett Selch without anything interesting about him. And it's also just so weird that one that they brought him back in Asahi's body for like kind of no reason. Because at first they're like, oh, he's doing this one because he can use Sway as being pretending to be that character, but then he immediately reveals himself as Fan Daniel to everyone. So it's like, no, that's not what's happening. I don't know. He seems like a bit of a mess. We'll see where it goes though. What's this guy? Hypothalamus hydraulic converter or something. I don't remember this guy's name. It starts with an H. He was the ghost that Emmett Selk made. That was basically like anti-Emmett Selk. It was like made from his doubts basically, and it was based on, I think, a friend of his from the before times basically. I think he's pretty cool. I like that he shows up later and does the little like Emmett Selk iconic hand wavy thingy to show that like he's helping you fuck up Elidibus. So this guy's pretty good, despite not being a super important character. So he's gonna be another of the like mid Bs, I think. Let's put him right above Vothri. This guy's got to be a C. I like when he like tries to shoot his shit with Y'shtola and tell her to like, oh, don't go, you have to stay here with me, I'm also a cat person, you know. And then he's like, oh, just kidding, when that didn't work out. I was just pranking, you should leave actually. I kind of like that, but overall he was like whatever. So let's put him, he's kind of like around, I'm gonna put him right here, I guess, because I thought he was a little bit more interesting than some of these other ones, but still nothing special. This one to me is another easy C. I don't feel like there was that much to her. She was just like Kraha's companion. She's kind of like a generic lieutenant character. Again, nothing bad, nothing good. You know what? I'll put her a little bit higher C because I thought it was kind of cool that Graha like kind of raised her like a daughter over the like hundreds of years he was around. So I think that's kind of interesting. So I'm gonna put her below Kanisena. These characters I have no idea who are. I don't know what these are from. They must be from like maybe a raid or something. This is supposed to be from MSQ, but as far as I know, these guys never showed up. So yeah, that's the full list. Let me zoom out. I mean, I definitely think there's a couple of things that I could like still move around a little bit. Like I said, any of these could be like, oh, you know what, maybe this is higher than this, maybe this is higher than that. But I think overall the tiers are roughly how I'm feeling now. So some things did definitely get shook up a lot. Graha moved a decent bit, you know, up from C to B. A lot of characters moved like within an individual tier. Alphino probably never should have been in B. He's really good, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, I guess the biggest things would also be these getting lowered even lower. Yeah, I would say that's about where it's at for now. Yeah, all right.